Good morning. I'm Miles McGovney. I use they, them pronouns, and I look forward to sharing leadership of today's service with Laura Edinger as we share stories in community with all of you. Whoever you are, wherever you live, whomever you love, whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. Today's service will be a bit out of the ordinary. As we move through the service, we invite you to reflect on your own experiences, your own story, and how that and your community are propelling you through this time in our collective story. After the service, we invite you to join us for coffee hour, either in the Fuller Chapel, just around the corner, or on Zoom. If you brought comic books or graphic novels, you're invited to share at coffee hour. You can swap or just talk about what the different stories mean to you. Now, I invite you to take this moment to hold our space here as sacred by silencing your electronic devices and preparing yourself to be present. Online or in person, we are grateful for this time together.
The time has come, you will hear our call. We're fighting for liberty and justice for all. We are fighting.
We are frightened.
We are angry.
We are angry.
We are rising.
We are rising.
We are hopeful.
We are hopeful.
We are peaceful.
We are peaceful.
We are striving.
We are striving.
Won't stop dreaming.
Won't stop dreaming. Won't stop marching. Won't stop dreaming.
Won't stop loving.
Won't stop loving.
And proclaiming.
And proclaiming.
And believing.
And believing. Our voices are united, louder than hate. We have gathered here. We've had all we can take. The time has come, you will hear our call. We're fighting for liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, got too excited.
Music will do that. I invite you to participate in this call and response, which was originally crafted by Tori Jameson and modified by me for today. May the force be with you.
And also with you.
Lift up your lightsabers.
Lift them up to rebellion.
We call forth the spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi, patient, compassionate, and oh so very human teacher.
Come, spirit of Obi-Wan Kenobi, come.
We call forth the spirit of Yoda, ancient and wise, believer in the power of the Force, the power of story, and peace and joy.
Come, Spirit of Yoda, come.
We call forth the spirit of Leia, talented, strong, and fierce leader.
Come, Spirit of Leia, come.
We call forth the spirit of Han Solo, determined, if prickly, friend, and defier of odds.
Come, Spirit of Han Solo, come.
We call forth the spirit of R2D2, brilliant, humble in service, and great of heart.
Come, Spirit of R2D2, come.
The Force is truly with us today and every day. And in a sign of community and mutuality, we affirm our mission to encourage, equip, and empower. And we ask that you join in the affirmation of our covenant with one another. Our covenant is a part of our communal story, and each time we speak it together, we recommit ourselves to one another and to our collective future. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. We light our chalice as a symbol of the light within us and the life force that flows through the world around us. It is our beacon as we search for truth. It is the warmth in our hearts for love, and it is the energy that propels us to action. May we be kindled by our time together.
Superheroes Are Everywhere by Kamala Harris, the abridged version. Faster than a rocket ship, stronger than a tidal wave, braver than a lion. Superheroes always make the world better, no matter what goes wrong. When I was a kid, I was sure that superheroes were everywhere, and I was determined to find them. So I started my superhero search right at home. Heroes make you feel special. It didn't take too long to find one. My mom had a magic touch. Her hugs made me feel warm, safe, and even strong. She knew I loved good food, so she taught me her secret recipes. See, Kamala, my mom would say, you can do anything if you put your heart in it and try hard, anything in the world. My mom was a superhero because she made me believe I could do anything. Who makes you feel special? Heroes are people you can count on. My sister Maya and I did everything together. I knew if I needed her, she'd be there. One half of our dynamic duo. When we felt sad, we would have an unbirthday party so we would feel better. Together we would eat unbirthday cake, open unbirthday presents, and dance around the living room. My sister was a superhero because she was someone I could count on. Who can you count on? Heroes make you feel brave. My dad wanted me to be fearless. Whenever we were at the park, he'd let go of my hand and call out, "Run, Kamala, run." And I would as far as I could for as long as I could. My dad was a superhero because he made me feel brave. Who makes you feel brave? Heroes stand up for what is right. My grandmother was one of the smartest people I have ever met. She used her smarts and her voice to speak out for women who were being hurt and to teach them how to stay healthy. My grandfather used his voice to make India a free country. My grandparents in India and Jamaica were superheroes for standing up for what's right. Who stands up for what's right in your life? Heroes are best friends. My best friend and I cared about each other. When I was in kindergarten, I told a boy to stop teasing one of my friends, and another time my best friend helped me when I fell on the playground. My best friends were superheroes because we made each other feel safe. Who are your best friends? Heroes are teachers. I loved my first grade teacher, Mrs. Wilson. She taught us about plants and flowers, sang songs with us from other cultures, and revealed how tadpoles turn into frogs. Teachers like Mrs. Wilson are superheroes because they show us the whole world. Who are your favorite teachers? Heroes are kind. I also found a superhero right down my street. Mrs. Shelton was a family friend. She took care of Maya and me while our mom Well, there's a paragraph missing. Where are we? There we go. Yes. Was at work. Very good. Mrs. Shelton treated everyone with love and respect. Her kindness made her a superhero to me. Who is kind to you? I'm good now. Heroes explore with you. My Aunt Lenore and I chased butterflies, and my Uncle Sherman taught me how to play chess. Aunt Mary and I read books together, and Uncle Freddie took me to museums. My aunts and uncles, my mom's friends who were part of our family, helped me explore my world, and that made them superheroes. Who helps you explore? Heroes work hard. Even as I got older, I kept searching for superheroes. My grandmother encouraged her kids, my mom and my aunts and uncles to study hard, and they did. My mom became a scientist. My Aunt Sarah is a doctor, and my Aunt Chinny works with computers. They were superheroes because they showed me that by working hard, I could be whatever I wanted to be when I grew up. Who do you know who works hard? Heroes protect people. After college, I wanted to become a lawyer. I wanted to be like Thurgood Marshall and Constance Baker Motley, who fought for people who are not always treated equally. Like them, I wanted to make sure the law would protect everyone. These lawyers were superheroes because they protected people by using the power of words and ideas. Who protects you? Heroes make a difference together. Once I became a lawyer and then a senator, I worked with all sorts of people to help kids even better. I got to know amazing kids and adults who want to make the world a better place. And do you know what I learned? Superheroes are everywhere you look, even inside of you. Are you kind, brave, and curious? Are you a best friend? Do you share? Do you treat people fairly? Do you lend a hand when other people need help? You're a hero by being the very best you. Now that's pretty super. Now I have a question. Are my K through 5 teachers here today? Yes, okay, wonderful. Okay, we now invite the younger kids, K through 5, to head to their classes, and the upper grades are invited to stay for the remainder of the service.
I want to talk about superheroes. This is not an uncommon desire for me, as some of you already know from firsthand experience. But today, I've been given permission to do so for an audience, so get ready. I'm going to start today by talking about my favorite superhero group, the X-Men. I tried many times to write a summary of who the X-Men are, each time realizing several paragraphs deep that just maybe I was including too much detail. So instead, I will quote a brief summary from a source I trust, Wikipedia. Per the Wikipedia article on the X-Men, in the Marvel Universe, mutants are humans born with a genetic trait called the X gene, which grants them natural superhuman abilities. The X-Men are a group of mutant superheroes. In their world, these abilities lead to mutants being feared by the majority of their society. And while they fight giant robots and alien invaders, the primary antagonist of the X-Men often ends up being politicians who fear their differences and want them either registered in a database or completely eradicated. That doesn't sound familiar at all, right? No real-world connections there. Each of the X-Men has an ability of their own. The original team includes Cyclops, who shoots laser beams from his eyes, Marvel Girl, who's telekinetic, Iceman, who has ice powers, an Angel, who has wings and can fly, and Beast, who has superior strength and agility. However, I would like to focus on an X-Man who was not part of the original team, though he might be the most famous of them all. This is the man who showed up on almost every X-Men t-shirt I found, the only member of the X-Men with his own movie series, the one, the only, Wolverine. For those of you who aren't familiar, Wolverine is known for getting in fights, calling everyone bub, and being buffer and hairier than pretty much anyone else out there. His superpowers include superhuman healing, allowing him to shrug off major injuries like they're nothing, shiny adamantium claws, and being played by Hugh Jackman in several major motion pictures. He drinks beer and smokes cigars. He drives fast cars and motorcycles. He was even a lumberjack for a while. Despite being Canadian by birth, Wolverine oozes stereotypical American macho. He's also a teacher. Now, let's take a moment to talk about what superheroes do when they aren't physically fighting bad guys. Superman is a journalist. Spider-Man is a journalist too, though in most iterations of his story, he's also a student and a scientist. The Incredible Hulk is a scientist. Daredevil is a lawyer, like Kamala. Iron Man is an inventor. Batman is independently wealthy. Cyclops is a teacher. Marvel Girl is a teacher. Iceman is a teacher. Angel is a teacher. Beast is a teacher. Wolverine is a teacher. You see, when Professor X, the founder of the X-Men, wanted to save the world, he founded a school. I'm wearing its shirt right now. And as long as the X-Men have been heroes, every single one of them has taught at that school. My first encounter with Wolverine wasn't with Wolverine, the macho superhero. It was with Wolverine, the teacher. When I was 7 years old, I snuck my dad's X-Men comics off the shelf and read a story of Wolverine mentoring a teenage girl who had just been forced to leave her home. Now, I wasn't technically supposed to be reading this book. It was on the shelf of books that were, Miles, please don't touch that. And I didn't understand the adult nuances of why this girl had been forced to leave her home. But I did understand that she was being treated very badly by people she should have been able to trust. And that Wolverine took her somewhere safe and, over the course of multiple books, taught her to have confidence in herself, not with steel or violence, but by sitting down with her and listening to her story. The X-Men fight evil when they have to. And in their world, they have to a lot. Like, a lot. In that way, their world isn't so different from ours, though I kind of wish more of our society's problems were giant robot-based. That sounds both cooler and easier to attack head-on than what our society is currently facing. But the X-Men taught me that the quieter acts, like Wolverine sitting down with that girl and giving her a safe adult to talk to, were no less heroic. Much as I hate to admit it, if a giant robot appeared, I wouldn't be very well equipped to deal with it. But I can be an X-Man in my own way by caring for people like me and making sure they don't feel alone.
Each week, we engage as a community in the sharing of our joys and sorrows, our concerns and milestones, small pieces of our collective stories. By joining together to hold each other in support and in celebration, we deepen our sense of interrelationship. We may find our sorrows eased and our joys magnified. I invite all, whether you are a guest or member, to share your joys or sorrows now by writing them on a slip of paper in the back of the sanctuary near where Amy is standing. Amy's raising her hand, thank you. Or by typing them in the virtual chat, by placing a stone in the water of community, or by lighting a candle. If you share by writing, please indicate whether your message is okay to share out loud. So how we work this is, please come down the center aisle, returning to your seats by the side aisles. Spoken or unspoken, our hearts join with yours in carrying all that life brings. place one final stone into our water of community for the stories of those who are not here to share with us today. Kevin Geist writes, "A sorrow at the sudden death of my cousin Steve Geist while he was at work. The funeral will be this afternoon." Jason writes, "I am finished with soccer and school is almost done." A joy indeed. Bastian writes, "Thinking about a friend from England who was going to immigrate to America to marry another good friend, but doesn't feel safe immigrating to America anymore because she's transgender." Nan and Jim Kavanaugh write, "Nan's eye surgery last Tuesday seems to have turned out okay. We'll know more at the next follow-up this week." Excellent. Thank you. For all that has been shared and all that we hold deep in our hearts, we journey with each other in love.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall live in peace someday. Bring it up. We shall be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall be free someday. Yeah, let's go. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome
When I was 7 years old, I threw a fit because I had been cast to play the mommy cave woman in our class play. No one, least of all me, had any idea why I was so upset. After all, I was a girl, and I hadn't told anyone that I wanted to be the daddy caveman. My parents chalked it up to be being a tomboy and left it alone. When I was 11 years old, I first came out as queer. The thing about being queer is that, unlike many minority identities, it isn't something handed down to you. It's something that you come to on your own. Even for someone older, being newly queer can be a uniquely isolating experience. That's okay, though. As a neurodivergent child, I was already used to finding solidarity in fiction far more than I was in real life. And I immediately started searching the world of fantasy for evidence that I wasn't alone. I wasn't thrilled with what I found in the school library. While I lived in a liberal enough area that the school library did have a small collection of LGBTQ+ literature, all of it focused exclusively on the experience of being a queer human in real-life human school. I was already doing that. What I wanted was queer wizards, queer aliens, queer knights fighting queer dragons, queer heroes, queer superheroes. I was already a queer kid. I'll give voice to the question that's probably plaguing you all. When is Miles going to relate this back to X-Men? Don't worry, I'm getting there. Like queer people, mutants in the X-Men universe don't usually inherit their identity from their parents, and they often don't find out that they are mutants until around puberty. The first time a mutant kid in the X-Men universe meets someone who shares their identity is often when they arrive at the Xavier School. When I was 14 years old, I attended my first Pride Parade. Unlike many queer folks, I've been lucky to grow up with a fair number of queer mentors. I'd been attending a queer youth group since I was 12, and I knew some adult queer people. However, it had always felt to some degree like the 10 or so peers in my group were where my community began and ended. At that Pride Parade, surrounded by a sea of rainbow, the entire street filled with people like me, for the first time, I understood what it was to be part of something larger. When I was 15 years old, I was evacuated from my second Pride Parade because a man with a gun had fired into the crowd. I never told my parents. Now I want to read the second half of the Wikipedia quote I cited earlier. Due to their differences from most of humanity, mutants are subject to prejudice and discrimination. Many X-Men stories feature social commentary on bigotry, justice, and other political themes. At one time or another, the X-Men have been used as an allegory for every marginalized group out there, except with superpowers, which, honestly, we should all have those. For me, a queer kid, the most relatable example of this is the scene in the 2003 X-Men movie X2, where Bobby Drake, aka Iceman, awkwardly comes out as a mutant to his parents, who ask him, "Have you tried not being a mutant?" In the movie, you watch Bobby shrink into himself at that question. The question seems absurd when looking at a man who can summon ice with his hands, but why is it any less absurd when it's about queer people? This scene isn't the only reason I'm talking about Iceman or wearing my Iceman shirt. If you know superheroes, you know that sometimes time gets a little bit funky for them. It doesn't necessarily progress from 7 years old to 11 to 14 to 15, eventually to 29, for example. Sometimes it goes from your mid-50s to age 15, and then both of them talk with each other, and I, Miles, just give up completely trying to understand it and enjoy the ride. All this to say, in a relatively recent comic, Iceman's childhood self comes to ask him why he never came out as gay. This is the first time Iceman, a member of the original X-Men since 1981, was identified as gay in the comics, though some of the writers have stated that they had been intentionally building up to this for years. as Iceman the teenager asks Iceman the adult why he never came out as gay. Iceman the adult answers with a line that made me cry in the middle of a comic shop on release day. He says, "I put all my energy into being a mutant and an X-Man. Can I just have one part of my life that I'm not being persecuted for?" Adult Iceman goes on to say that he felt he was strong enough to be openly a mutant or openly gay, but not both. And because he's made of ice, he's visibly a mutant, he chose to be openly a mutant. One of his students, who was there to witness this reveal, replies, "There's a big argument that says you might be a better X-Man and a better teacher if you're ready to be the whole you." I wasn't always open about my queerness or my gender identity. That is, until a transgender child I was caring for as a physician told me, on finding out that I was transgender too, "I've never met a transgender adult. I didn't know you could live that long." Take a moment with that. He didn't know you could live that long. The only transgender people he knew were his online friends who were all around his age. He had lived his life expecting to die before he reached adulthood because he didn't know anything else was possible. The next day, I arrived at work with no less than 5 rainbow and transgender pride flag pins pinned to my white coat and a new transgender flag lanyard, and I have made it a point ever since to make sure that all of my patients know who I am. For a queer person, I've been incredibly privileged in so many ways. I am white and upper middle class in a relatively liberal community, and unlike my patient, I grew up with a fair number of adult queer role models. Were things easier for me when I was quiet about who I was? Absolutely. But I will never know what it's like to be a person who experiences queerness as a person of color or someone with any other additional marginalized identity. I will never know the strength of my siblings dealing with multiple intersecting marginalized identities, the strength they must have to be open and be themselves. But I can confirm that, at least for me, being ready to be the whole me definitely made me a better doctor, a better teacher, and maybe a better X-Man. The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, an intentionally gathered congregation of freely thinking, loving people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by us. Each week, we take up an offering where we ask each other to share money to support the church. We also use half of this money to help a charity which is doing important work to improve the world. For the month of May, we are sharing with the Oliver Lagrone Scholarship Program. The Lagrone Scholarship offers the largest local scholarship available to the graduates of Harrisburg Public Schools. If you wish to contribute online, visit uchbg.org and scroll to the bottom of the page for options. You may also scan the QR code found on the back of your order of service. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
We dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of compassion and action, faith and fellowship, hope and wholeness. And before I give my homily today, I just want to give a huge thank you to Miles. Fabulous. And to our excellent musicians, Chris and George, who you haven't met unless you've been at a women's chorus concert. It's back there. And James. Fabulous. And how about the bell choir? Oh my Thank you. Annie Crosby wrote in a blog in March of 2024 that stories are the building blocks of the human experience. She encouraged folks to think about our daily life, conversations, emails, texts, even your thoughts, all stories. Think of the variety of ways we share and receive our stories with one another. British author Tahir Shah states, "Stories are a communal currency of humanity." Think about that. Stories are a communal currency of humanity. Indeed. We bond through story. We create community through shared stories. We respond to themes and representation in story. Miles shared their powerful experience with comic book stories. The combination of written and visual art can be world-shaping, resonating with stories that reflect the issues we deal with in real life and giving us a framework for response, a way of being in the world is profound. Realizing that someone creating this story art understands your human plight can help us see that everyone belongs here, that we belong to each other. When I was a kid, I would watch the X-Men cartoon on Saturday mornings with my dad. I initially loved it because he loved it. He was, still is, my first superhero. But then I started to really fall in love with the characters and saw that being different is powerful, and having folks in your life who understand and accepted you for who you are is everything. Having that reflected every Saturday morning was a gift. Honestly, this helped me not feel excluded and generally awful attending Catholic church services on Sundays. So it was on Saturday that I had my true values established, and time I spent with my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, after church on Sundays. As I got older, I explored other modes of storytelling, theater performance, musical, and Shakespeare. A fun story of my own that I feel inclined to share, just because. I was in a production of Romeo and Juliet when I was 19. I played a serving girl to Juliet. And let me set the stage for you. A couple of key points to understand. The theater was small and intimate, so everyone would see everything happening on that stage. There was a winding staircase for actors to enter and exit the stage. The dress I wore in this show was a bit too long for me. All relevant points, I assure you. So we're performing this play for an English class audience, and I'm taking the actions I've taken so many times before. I do my little servant thing for Juliet and prepare to exit when the nurse comes in for a fairly serious scene. I take a step up the staircase, and then another. And at the second step, I step on the inside of my dress. This was a key decision point that I very badly misjudged. Rather than take a beat and step back, no. I proceeded to walk up the inside of my dress until there was no more dress to walk up. My knees are buried in my chest, And I have no choice but to throw my legs off the side of this winding staircase and crawl off in performance. Laughter and distraction and end scene. Now, after telling you this story, I'd like to think about how that made you feel. Maybe joy, maybe secondhand embarrassment, maybe irritation, or maybe all of those things. Maybe you're thinking of an embarrassing moment that you had that pales in comparison, or one that is so much worse. Maybe you're thinking about sharing that story with me after service, which I, of course, welcome. But this is an example of how our very human moments help us relate to each other in different ways. Going back to Shakespeare, he was quite the storyteller, and I know there's scuttlebutt about maybe he was credited but not actually the true author. Regardless, many of the themes in his stories are as old as humanity and reappear over and over in nearly every storytelling tradition, including comics. Comics actually better serve Shakespeare's stories than just reading the written words, because ultimately, those stories were meant for watching them unfold live. There's nuance that gets picked up on stage and in artistic renderings in comics that draw action, that can be missed in the written word on its own. And did you know Shakespeare's stories were written for common folks? An abstract of a paper on Shakespeare notes that, quote, Elizabethan England was a state of repression, and Shakespeare could not write his plays freely, and he could not oppose Elizabeth and her government openly. So he had to use allegory, and every one of his plays is an act of rebellion. Shakespeare's history plays are symbols of resistance to the rule of force and war politics. And that message is implicit in the way of presenting kings. End quote. Stories that serve as acts of rebellion, linking humanity, tale as old as time. Which brings us to Star Wars. I was born in the year of our Star Wars, 1977. So, not only has this particular story always been a force, a force in my life, but the movie and I celebrate the same milestone years. 2027 will be another big one for both of us, and I'll let you math that out. In preparation for this service, my Dave and I watched the first 3 Star Wars movies. Now, I Now, I recognize the Star Wars franchise has its own history, and some of it's problematic, as it's not as representative or diverse as I really wish it was. It does seem recently that this is a work in progress. It's a known problem, and hopefully knowing means fixing. As the great Maya Angelou said, do the best you can until you know better. Then, when you know better, do better. So, I wanted to acknowledge that I understand that piece of the franchise history before moving forward with the underlying story themes. It's important to call out the shadow side of the things we love, as well as the things we don't. Rewatching the Star Wars story, it resonated with me in a way that never would have before this moment in time. I understood intellectually before why a rebellion would be needed. I mean, of course you don't want evil in charge. Of course you want everyone to be free. Now that evil is in charge of our country, I felt the plight of the rebels, and I was invested that much more in the story. Even though I knew that the good guys won in the end, I couldn't help be terrified for them in the moment and heartbroken for those who didn't survive. There were other things that I paid much closer attention to than I had in the past as well. The Empire was reckless in their hatred and carrying out cruelty. There were few at the table planning. Meanwhile, the rebels were planning together, always several more people in the room, and they ended their meetings with, May the force be with you. As a means of saying they cared about the well-being of everyone in that room, acknowledging bravery. And the force was understood to be what connected everyone, where all life forms intersected, something bigger than themselves that they all belong to. True, it could be used for nefarious purposes, but for the rebellion, it meant safety and care. Essentially, their strength played out in their care for one another, in the intentional community they created. The winning strategy was combining talent, intelligence, bravery into a community with common purpose and care for one another. The other side cannot ultimately defeat that. Tangerine Palpatine and his space MAGA army can try, and they will. But we have something they don't, a far more compelling story. One where we value our individuality, but where we understand that our greatest strength lies with the collective and with ensuring the resilience of the community. Every single person has their part to play, and every one of us absolutely is the lead character, the superhero even, of our own story. Although it may not feel like it, supporting one another is heroic. The rebel forces could not have succeeded without the combined talents of each individual. No one could have conquered the empire alone. We develop our strengths as part of each other's stories. Love in action, love with teeth, as Dan so powerfully talked about in his reflection last week. But it requires us to work together. That's why this church community is so important. Each one of you is individually and as our collective covenantal community. Our story is one of resilience, hope, compassion, strength, and love. It is also of rebellion and defying the status quo, being afraid but speaking truth to power anyway. We believe in social justice. We believe in human rights, that all humans have the right to safety, to live and work and play and create, and to engage in all the good things life can offer if we allow it. Yes, thank you. If we work together for it. If we're willing to be uncomfortable and learn and grow together, building a better world as we go. Doing this together is key. We are the rebellion, my friends. We always have been. May we continue to work together for freedom, liberty, and justice for all, so that those telling our story in future generations note that we answered the call of love. Blessed be. Amen. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Don't give up hope. You're not alone. Don't you give up. Keep moving on. You gotta put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. Put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. This is Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. I regret to report that both our Jedi Order and the Republic have fallen, with the dark shadow of the Empire rising to take their place. This message is a warning and a reminder for any surviving Jedi. Trust in the Force. Do not return to the temple. That time has passed, and our future is uncertain. We will each be challenged, our trust, our faith, our friendships. But we must persevere, and in time, a new hope will emerge.